Another day is here. It's the Blind Radio Guy podcast.
It's the Blind Radio Guy podcast, and this episode is really special to me because I've been waiting to get this legend on for a long time. It's been such an honor to be able to get to know him over the last couple years, meeting him at Morning Show Boot Camp. Today I have with me BJ Shea, the host of BJ and Migs out on KISW 99.9 in Seattle. BJ, my man.
Danny! What is up, young man? Good to hear from you.
Look, man, I brought up something real quick in your intro, is that I met you at a Morning Show Boot Camp.
Yes.
And one of the things that I noticed about you right off the bat was like, you're just such a generous guy and you're so giving and you're really good to the people who are up and coming. Where do you think that comes from?
I think that comes from acting and putting on a facade because I'm really evil.
Yeah. You know, I was listening to an interview with your co-host, Danny, and he was talking about the first time he met you and how he was like afraid of you in your show because you guys had like the big beards and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it plays into like the whole blindness thing for me because I'm like, oh my God, I just thought like BJ was just like this nerdy looking guy based on his voice. Never would I think that these guys look kind of scary.
Well, and I it's funny because Holly and Miguel, who, you know, Miguel and Holly, they do a great show in North Carolina. They said the same thing about me when they met me. They were like, dude, you kind of scare me. And I'm originally from Boston, so we're pretty aggro. I also have RBF, resting biatch face. So and my tone sometimes can be a little off-putting. And, also over the years, I've mellowed out a little bit. But boy, in the early days of boot camp, I used to be pretty aggressive. So it's not too far off to have people think, man, I don't know, that BJ, he's kind of a scary guy. But I've done a lot of work and realized that, I want people to see me as I am. And it's funny when you just think you're a regular person and people go, no, dude, you're coming off like kind of, and so
I'm an asshole.
I'm going to work.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on that. I am going to see if I can really figure that out. And so I really put a lot of effort into that to try not to come off that way.
No, but this actually really brings a good point. This is an East Coast thing. Because I'm from New Jersey originally, born and raised in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And
nice.
I just think people, a lot of the times it comes off a little more aggressive than it really means to be.
You're right. I mean, I do have friends from the East Coast that think nothing of me. You're right. It's definitely cultural.
I lived in Seattle briefly. And, oh my God, I lived actually in Federal Way.
Fetty Way.
Yeah, I commuted from Federal Way, but here's the thing. They are, and of course, you can't say anything. You got to protect your audience. They are some of the most passive-aggressive people I ever met out there. Like I always say, I'm not passive-aggressive. I'm just aggressive. I mean, they are passive-aggressive.
Seattle is a very courteous culture. It's the exact opposite of the East Coast. If being from Boston, we as the old phrase, oh, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. In Boston, we make mountains out of molehills for everything. But in Seattle, it's the other way around. They make molehills out of mountains. Nothing's a big deal. They don't like confrontation.
Yep.
And you're right. Because of that, there's definitely, if you're not aggressive, then if you're going to assert yourself, sometimes that comes off as passive aggressive. And that, there is that case. There's a lot of smiling while basically trying to get their way with you. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of fun with that on the air. Just had a woman today said she didn't like my tone. And I said, well, it's equal opportunity. I have this tone with everybody. You, anybody. I don't care who you are. Cats, dogs, men, women. I give you all the same tone. So
Exactly. So, you've been in Seattle for a good while now.
Yeah, it's 24 years, man.
Man, that's so cool. So let's talk about your beginnings because you started in radio where? In Boston, or did you go right to New York?
Boston has a lot of like little radio stations in all these little communities. Yep. So I worked in so many different little radio stations in small towns. in Massachusetts and some in New Hampshire. And that's where I got my start. And a lot of them, you really had to crash into the transmitter to be able to hear our station. A lot of small time radio is how I started. Yeah.
Did you want to do radio, or is it kind of something you fell into?
I didn't know I did. It's funny. When I was growing up, I bought 2 cassette recorders, and I used to record stuff off the TV to do these bits with a buddy of mine, because we used to go to school at noon. They had triple sessions. And so a lot of kids just killed time by drinking, but me and my nerdy buddy killed time by making all these little comedy bits on our Radio Shack cassette recorders. I didn't know that I was doing radio bits. And then eventually I started listening to the radio probably in my teens. And then I realized, these guys were doing what I was doing, and started calling into sports talk shows in the Boston area, trying to disguise my voice so that they would let me through because I was a kid. And then I knew I really liked the industry from that side of it, but I never thought that I would do that business. I thought I was going to be an artist. Yeah. And my art teacher was not nice, because he should have told me I had no talent, because I took my portfolio around to colleges and they looked at me and like, my God, dude, this work is horrible. So wow. I had to find something else to do. I really thought I was going to be an artist. And eventually I came across this college radio station at a school I was at, and they didn't have any major or minors in communication. So I'm like, you have a radio station, but there's nothing I can learn. I just go work at the station. So I eventually went from there to a broadcasting school, nice little 8-month program. And then boom, there you go. Just got my first internship and I was off to the races.
I'm so glad you said that. So you went to a broadcasting school.
Yes.
It's like one of the most frowned upon things in radio. How do you feel about broadcasting schools still today? Do you feel like they're beneficial?
This was 400 years ago, in the rock building. So maybe broadcast schools are different now. I that's what I was told. I was told to go to a broadcasting school and not go to a 4-year school. Right. I was told that by a guy who basically had me intern for his station, and eventually I worked with him on his morning show. I asked him, what should I do? And he was like, dude, don't waste your time with college. Just go to broadcasting school. Let's teach you how to use the equipment. And if you've got any ability, which he thought I had, I'll teach you when you come work for me at the station. I don't know if that's the same today, because some companies don't even offer internships anymore. Yeah. But for me, it was perfect. So many of my friends got into massive debt at college. And I have this one friend today who went to Emerson, which is a really good communication school. And he never really made a career in radio. He tried. He's got, he does some internet stuff, but he was always pretty much upset at the fact that I was working in the business with my broadcast school education and certificate of completion, and he had a degree, and I
couldn't get anywhere.
He couldn't get anywhere, but I was told a long time ago that it was a performance-based industry. It doesn't matter. Now, that was then. Today, I really don't know what to tell you, though. With audio entertainment and video entertainment being everywhere, I don't know how much education do some of these people that are hosting podcasts or YouTube channels or Twitch channels.
It's true.
I don't know how much education they have.
That's true.
I think that if you can get internships in radio stations, I feel like if that you still can do in some way, shape, or form, that's always a good thing, though.
So your show, when you went to Seattle, started as the BJ Shea Experience.
Yes, it was the BJ Shea Experience when I was doing middays for an FM talk station. Then when I got the job at doing mornings, it was the BJ Shea Morning Experience when I went to KISW. Yeah.
So and that was what, early 2000s?
Well, I got here in '99 and then took over the morning show in 2006.
Okay, so let's go back just a little bit before that. So you did some shows, you did some radio work in New Hampshire. You got the opportunity to work with the guy who pretty much told you, "Hey, go to broadcasting school." Who was that?
That was a guy by the name of Dean James, who I just recently saw in Texas, actually, because he now lives there. And his wife still does news for the news talk station in Texas. And I met them both in Boston. He and I both worked in a supermarket together, and he had a great radio career. He now does voiceover work and other things. but he actually programmed KSCS in Texas.
In Texas, yeah.
I think he programmed at the time when Hawkeye was a sidekick to Terry Dorsey.
Yeah.
Dean worked all over the place. And of course, I worked with him in Boston, and that's where I got my start. One of my early mentors in the business. It was really great. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and we both just laughed about, being old guys now trying to figure out life in this fine audio, this business with all you young punk kids taking our jobs.
Move out of the way, damn it.
I know. It's like, I feel it. I was like, man, I knew that would bite me in the ass, and I would just push all those old people out of the way when I was in my 20s. And now I'm getting pushed out of the way by the Danny Romeros of the world.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things, and we're going to get into this in just a second, but one of the things that I used to hear when I was growing up and listening to guys like Opie and Anthony was that this business is very much so wait your turn. And it's interesting because you have guys still, and this is the guy I looked up to a lot, Elvis Duran, who has become a good friend, that man, you can really, really make a long career if you're good at what you do, and it doesn't matter the format, right? Like, they used to push guys once they reached a certain age out of top 40, right? Like, it's interesting how if you're really good, you can keep your job.
Top 40 is interesting. I don't know about other formats, but top 40, man, it is interesting how you can be very old. Matt Siegel, Matty in the Morning, he recently retired, but he was in his 70s doing top 4. Well, I don't know if it's exactly top 40 KISS. I don't know, but I mean, it was still a much younger audience than what he was. But that format seems to be really forgiving in some way, shape, or form. With top 40 dudes, and that's awesome. You also can keep your career going if you just make some adjustments, and maybe you go from one place to another, eventually go to a format that ages with you, if you're lucky. And so that's what I will hope will happen to me when when all of a sudden somebody it's like, hey, you know what? It might be time to go somewhere else. I hope that I've done my job to be able to pivot a little bit and find something else. Because I do love the business. I love working in the business. I think the big thing, being able to age well, sure. But the big thing is also financial freedom. My agent, Paul Anderson, agent of the stars, always told me that if you really are smart with your money and just save, when you get to the point in life where somebody might say to you, hey, man, we need you to leave. We're going to go do something else. You'll have enough money that you'll have options. Some people don't. They go buy the big cars, the fancy things. But, for me, I've been doing a really good job saving so that I will have.
So you can have FU money. That's what we call it, FU money.
It's important. That in itself also can help as you try to figure out what your next move might be if you're in that position. But when you're like Elvis, I mean, Elvis is just so brilliant at what he does, and it just seems like so many great people I have met that have either been on his show or are on his show, which is really a testament to how good a talent is when you see all the people that basically do other things in radio. Scott Shannon was the same way. So many people, I'd be like, oh, you worked on his show, Mike? I mean, so many people worked on his show that now are doing big shows themselves. Yeah. That means a lot. Brother Weeze also same thing, because Opie came from, the Weeze school, just like I did.
Right. And so I wanted to get into that because, by the way, news just came out yesterday. Brother Weeze went to Middays.
So jealous.
I know.
To sleep in.
He gets to sleep in. After several decades of doing morning radio, this guy gets to actually not have to wake up so damn early. But you came from the Brother Weeze school of radio, and you had mentioned that Opie had interned for you.
Yeah, he had interned for the station. Yeah, and we had fun. He is such a great guy, and so proud of what he built for himself. He's just a great orchestrator. He just sees where to put things. He's got a beautiful mind, also a great work ethic, and those were some glory days when I think about all the people that we worked with that went on to do their own
incredible
things, just man. Like that lightning in a bottle when like Weeze just owned Rochester with these ridiculous ratings, at a rock station. Just
such a legend.
And I learned, I mean, that is where I learned everything. I thought I knew what the hell I was doing. And then working with Weez, basically, I had to unlearn everything and just start from scratch because of the fact that he was so different, so unique, and so amazing. And it's a time I'll always treasure. It's just so amazing time in my life.
You saw Opie work up through his years of making freaking millions. How do you feel about the disbanding of the show?
I'm friends with Jim Norton. I'm friends with Opie. I don't know Anthony very well. We've talked and everything. He's a fellow Star Trek fan.
Sure, yeah.
You know, just on the outside looking in, I just saw such talented people. Like the three of them are just so gifted.
Yes.
And so as a fan, it saddens me to go, man, I'm sorry that that's not a thing anymore. But you know, stuff happens. I mean, that's just unfortunately in the world of entertainment, things happen. But as a fan of all of them, I'm just so sad because, you know, they're all so amazing.
Well, they had such an amazing thing going. And I think, you know, it was really saddening as a fan myself. I mean, they were literally influential. It was Elvis, it was O&A, and those were the two that I really learned a lot from. And I know it's kind of like taboo to bring up O&A in the industry now, and I know a lot of people hated them, and I know that they caused a lot of problems for people.
They did.
Do you think that Opie's relationship with you kind of saved you from the Jocktober?
Yeah, I always wondered. I thought we really got along, and he really had a lot of respect for me. And when I heard some of the Jocktober bits, I'm like, oh my God, like some of the shows that I did when I was working for Hot AC, I'm like, he easily could have Jocktobered that. And I would have laughed my ass off. It would have been almost like an honor to be Jocktobered. But, you know, Opie has always just held me in such high regard. And I don't know if I deserve it because he's such, you know, he's such an amazing talent. He was, you know, he was then, and I still think he is now. But you're right. Because of the kind of radio they did, because of some of the things that they did, some of that stuff has not aged well. Yeah. And therefore, and of course, because of some of the things that have happened outside of the radio show,
right.
And all of the, you know, everything that went on to lead to the show being where it is today. I think that's just, it's unfortunate because the brilliance of everybody involved with that show is lost, but I can also understand why people are very upset at certain things that went down. And it's a tough, you know, it really is tough because I know Opie and I know Jim, and I think out of everybody, I don't think anybody has any negativity towards Jim Norton. Jim is
definitely, he just went where the money was. He was protecting his bottom line too. I think.
And if you know Jim is, he is one of the hardest working, most professional people in the world of comedy I've ever met. And when you see his act, you just imagine, oh my God, here's a guy that's just out of his mind. He'll do anything. It's a big party. Whereas like Ralphie May, it was a big, big party. Hey, everybody, let's get baked. But both amazing talents. But Jim was a student of the game and super serious. And no matter where he went, even though he was as edgy as he was, he never made, at least in my opinion, he never made anybody feel bad when he guested on their show, even though he was probably the hippest, edgiest guy in that room. And maybe that show he's on could even be a Jocktober show. He always was really, really kind.
He was cordial,
and able to fit in with a show. And really, you know, that's to me the sign of a true professional. So I give Jim a lot of love. And I think that out of all the drama that's gone down, I don't think anybody's got a whole lot of negativity towards Jim. And you know, Opie's my friend. Like I said, I don't know Anthony really well, I you know, and Opie will be a friend. And yes, Opie, you know, did things that people were pissed off about, and I'm not going to tell the people not to be pissed off about it.
Absolutely, I mean, everybody has a right to be upset. I mean, they were not the nicest, but as a fan, it made for great radio, and it's so weird to really be around the biggest names in radio now and and just see all the people that they Jocktobered or they made their lives miserable. Like, it's so wild to shake their hands and meet them now.
It is. You're right. And, you know, some people get stronger and better from that. You know, there was a great big show in San Diego. You probably heard of them, Jeff and Jer.
Jeff and Jer.
They were. I mean, they owned San Diego, and the first time that we went to morning show boot camp, which was one of the first ones, Brother Weeze, was on a panel and he just owned the place. Everybody realized what an amazing talent he was. And I remember Jeff and Jer, who were doing a show, and it was an okay show, but arguably it would have been a show that would have been Jocktobered. Once they saw Weeze, they were like, okay, we have to change everything. So I look at it like, if somebody comes at me and says, look, your show is A, B, C, D, and E, and it's not cool, I then have to look at it and go, well, I want to be better. Let me see if there's any truth to this. And I hope some of those Jocktobered shows really grew from that, because there was some truth to what Jocktober was about. Now, could they have been nicer and not as cruel? Well, look, you got miserable New Yorkers, that's just basically the state of...
Well, exactly it. And honestly, like, at some point, right, and this becomes a really, really great topic because it starts to lean into, like, the political side of things, but, like, how much control over your fans do you have, right? Like, it's the Alex Jones theory here, where, like, yes, he shouldn't have ever gone on the air and said stuff like, the Sandy Hook people were it's all a hoax and they were, actors. But not once did he say, go out and do this, go out and harass them. Same thing with O&A. It's like they never said, go attack the Facebook pages, but they actually did. And it's like, how much control, if you don't solicit something, do you have?
It's a hard, that is, as we go from when they were big in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and then we start traveling to now, it doesn't age well where you have basically this mob mentality. Though, yes, it's interesting. I mean, the mob mentality is now transferred to social media and people getting canceled. It's the same thing, but people think they're doing it for better reasons. In other words, what those folks were doing maybe for Opie and Anthony, some people might think are cruel, but basically it's mob mentality. And then you've got canceling people. Okay, you think you're doing it for the right reason, and maybe you have good intentions, but that's still mob mentality. And people just do somehow get caught up in mobs. And and Opie and Anthony, Howard Stern, any kind of show like that back in those days, so many of those, real edgy shows, I mean, they knew that they could make money and get great ratings off of that whole idea, especially when we, had a different kind of rating system than we do now.
Oh, yeah. Those days are over, though. I mean, those days are over. Yeah. I'm sure the companies, too, are coming down on the shows like, you are not to talk about your mob.
It's just nowadays, it is so easy for companies to go, we do not want to look bad, therefore we're not going to tolerate anybody. And it's happened. It recently happened to Don Geronimo,
right?
Yeah. And he had just signed a new deal with his company, and then he did what he did, and they were quickly to say, okay, peace out. If it were 30 years ago, he would still have a job.
Would have been content. He would have blown up from that. Right?
Yeah, and so, but if you're a performer, you gotta know, though. You have to, if you want. Look, I may not be the most successful guy in this business. I mean, especially if you compare me to what Opie and Anthony did, and people like Howard Stern, and those guys have tremendous success, and Elvis Duran. For me, I'm in the long game. It's like I want to stay in this business as long as I can, which means I have to be smart. I have to make sure that I go and know what the public wants and what they don't want, and what my company wants and what they don't want. I have to be smart like that. I don't know if every older broadcaster thinks that way. Like even Matt Siegel, before he left, it was like, dude, you're saying things, and I don't know why you think you've got to say those things. But then again, I don't know if that guy needs any money. So it's like, right. Need money, they kind of get stupid.
You get comfortable. It's exactly what you said. It was stupid money, smart money. The mentality we were talking about when I was talking to you at Morning Show Boot Camp about asking you about Opie, because I know that's a touchy subject. So I really appreciate you answering those questions, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always going to love the kid because he was a great kid, and he's always been kind to me and good to me. So people might not be happy about that. It's really hard when you've got a friend that people have issues with. But it's like, look, what do you want me to tell you? I'm going to treat somebody the way they treat me. I'm not going to tell you to elect him for president, but I mean, I'm still going to, I'm going to treat him as my friend.
For sure.
And I see he hasn't done anything to make me not regard him as a friend. So, including like he never jocked over me, which maybe, I don't know. I'll have to ask him someday. Here's the sad thing. What if he just didn't even think it was worth listening to the show to jock over? That could even be the bigger insult. It was like, it wasn't even out of respect. It was like, oh, your show was so bad, we couldn't even jock over it. This is a funny business, man. I have some friends. I have a couple of friends, Terry from Lex and Terry, and I had conversations, and those guys did some stuff. And I remember, talking to Terry and say, Terry, you got to come to boot camp, man. And he's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm going to be well received at boot camp. And it is tough. It's tough when you do attack other people in the industry. You can't be really upset because they're mad at you for it. I mean, that's kind of the human condition. You piss somebody off, they're going to be pissed.
Right, and you're playing with their money, right? Like, this is not just a, hey, who's better, whose dick is bigger? It's, hey, man, you're really messing with my pockets right now.
Yeah, which I think is a great, again, maybe because we're East Coasters, but I'm like, bring it on.
Me too. Yeah, for sure.
Adversity is going to come, and it's interesting to see. Do you know yourself? Do you have a good enough character that you can handle those moments? Because I was prepared, even though, Howard was never, my show was never big enough for Howard to care about. But I always thought, what would happen if Howard came to my town and I was the number one show? How would I handle that? I need a strategy because a lot of shows, I think, did not really do that well. And it's funny, that was part of when we took over KISW. A lot of folks try to replace Howard Stern, and it did not work. Our show also had Howard Stern before we took over. And it's funny, when he left for satellite, so many people in radio were pissed. And so everybody called me and said, so make sure you beat the crap out of him and, tell all your listeners what a jerk he is. And I sat there and I said, I don't think I am going to do that. Because like you and like a lot of people, and, they loved Howard. And even though Howard was going to satellite, I knew some of our listeners weren't going to be able to afford satellite. They weren't going to be able to follow Howard. So I thought, well, let's just
let's keep those listeners, man.
Let's do a show, our first show, honoring the guy and saying, hey, man, we're sorry if you got to stay here. We hope we can entertain you, but we understand it sucks that your guy is gone. And we didn't beat him up. And luckily for us, we saw pretty much the ratings did not decline. And I think it was that strategy where we just basically knew Seattle, knew that people don't like you being a jerk, and just approached it that way, even though everybody in the country told me what to do. And everybody in the country did take a dump all over Howard. And a lot of those shows, so many of those shows failed post Howard.
Exactly.
And, yeah. So I think you got to have a strategy. You got to know yourself, know your market. You got to be good like that and not be shocked. So if the Jocktobers come, you're ready for Jocktober. Like, okay, that's what Opie and Anthony are. What are you? What can you do to counter that? And I always had a plan. I definitely always had a plan to counter that if anybody ever wanted to come messing with me. Luckily, it never happened, but I was ready.
I got a few questions left. I'm broke and I don't pay for Zoom. So how do you keep your show relevant in the change of the media landscape with things going so digital and short video content and all that? Does your audience care about that, or do they just care about you having a great conversation with Migs and the cast?
Boy, that is really out of my pay grade, I have to tell you. And this is why it's so good to have a great show and great people on the team. I think people like Steve Miggs and Danny V and obviously Vicky and Sarah and Joey, they know, and they also collaborate with our digital captain at the station, and that's Taryn. And those folks really know what's up, and so we're always on point because of everybody doing their job. And they just come to me and tell me what they want me to do in front of that phone, whether it's on, wherever it might be, TikTok, Instagram, wherever they got me. And they know what we need to do because they collaborate with a lot of folks in the market, maybe even outside the market. And that's important because I really don't know. And I don't think I could ever really know as well as they do because sometimes that's a younger game. But we really have people on our show and in our station that do know. And they believe we are doing everything we're supposed to be doing. So we stay relevant by really listening to younger people. And I'm really happy that we have like millennials working with us at the station really have they've got their finger on the pulse of that, Danny.
No, they're really good, man. And they're just all incredible people. How'd you get hooked up with Migs, man?
Well, it was really fortunate when I had my midday show, and they told me we're going to go do mornings. I said, well, we're going to need more people. The midday show just had a couple of dudes. I said, but morning show's a big thing. And they were like, all right, well, let's go start looking for somebody. And Steve was working on another show that just got let go. And I always really admired Steve's work and had known him for a while. He's been in the company. And so I thought, hey, is there a chance we can get him? He was still under contract, even though he was getting paid by that company. And boy, we got really, really lucky. So I had met Steve a couple of times, and just always admired him from afar. And then when the opportunity came in 2006, when he was available, I was like, okay. At the time, I had no idea how valuable he would be because he was our fourth guy. But he quickly rose up from 4 to 3 to 2 to co-host. But you could tell as soon as you meet Steve and then you just start seeing his work ethic and what he brings and how he can do so much. I just knew like, oh my gosh, what a great hire. We got so lucky. He's
a brilliant mind, man. He's really, really good. And I think you guys really do complement each other well. It goes to show what working together for a long time can really do.
Yeah, he's one of the best in the business, man.
Would you say is one of the biggest flubs you ever made on air?
Oh, well, doing what we do now, flubs are really part of the show now. But I do remember very early in my career, they were trying to do automation the way we basically now you can do everything in voice track and you can let the programs run everything for you.
Yeah.
But back in the 80s when I started, they had these gigantic computers that would fill a room. And they tried to use them to automate, and they were not good. And like we had one that would play all of the reel-to-reel tape. That's how far back it goes. It would play all of the commercials that were on these cartridges that were like these 8-track. All this old school stuff. And they tried to send signals, and I couldn't even turn on my own microphone. The computer did this machine did it for me, but it would always lock up. And so this was Sunday on an AM station that had an audience 55 to death, so it was old people, very religious in the Boston area. And the machine is supposed to come to me and it locks up. It doesn't come to me. Something's happening. So I'm going in trying to fix the machine. Little do I know, does it finally come to me and turn the mic on? And I am just swearing up and down.
Oh my
God. George Carlin, all of his words and some more that I made up, all on mic, but me not knowing. And that was, I remember it to this day because it was people like it was like,
wow.
It was horrible. It was, and I was very colorful. I think I pretty much, whatever sexual position, whatever, any kind of activity you could think of, I was laying onto that computer that I was so angry at. And to this day, I think that's my biggest flub, just because of the idea that the audience was so old. This was 40.
They were clutching their pearls.
Oh, they were. They were like, I don't even know some of these words he's using. Oh my God.
Billy, can you tell me what this means?
I hated that computer. God, did that automation suck. God, did I hate that.
I wish there was an air check of that, by the way.
As you could imagine, I probably erased that air check. I don't know what swearing? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have my idea. There's no record of it,
So 2 more questions for you. We only have 4 minutes left. BJ Shea, how did you get your name?
It's numerology. My first name is Bob. My middle name is Joseph. And I started as Bob Joseph. Then I used to have a big appetite, so I was Bob Ravenous. And then when I got married to my wife, I got this new job where I was going to host my first morning show by myself. And so she's like, well, what are you going to do? You're going to keep that same name? I go, I don't know. She goes, let's come up with something lucky based on the numbers. And so my wife is really into alternative philosophies and all that. And so numerology, she found a combo. And by taking my name, B and J, and her maiden name, Shea, we added it up, and she said, "Oh my God, this is like a numerological financial success thing. Let's do it." And so I said, "Okay, whatever. I mean, it doesn't hurt me to do it." And I mean, ever since then, the career's been good. So
yeah, I like that, man. That's awesome.
even though when I was in Florida, I almost didn't get hired because the salespeople down in Jacksonville thought BJ was too sexually suggestive, and they almost didn't hire me. And the salespeople complained about it when they did. Y'all know what BJ means, and I go, yeah, it means Bob Joseph, unless perhaps maybe your mind is a little dirtier than you want it to be.
Turn it around on them, yeah.
Just loved working in the South in the 90s. That was fantastic.
Yikes. And then my last question, you've gotten to interview guys like Kevin Smith, Alice Cooper, of course, William Shatner, which I'm sure was a huge one for you as a Star Trek fan. Who would you say is the most memorable guest you've had on the show that made an impact?
Oh, boy. You know what? The one that I remember, just because it was such a sweet moment with my daughter, was David Koechner, from Anchorman.
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah, Sarah just decided, because she's got a crooked mouth and he has a crooked mouth, she decided to ask him this question about his mouth on the show. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is going to leave, because I don't know how he feels about this. And he just looked at her and just loved her. He's like, my God, you do have a weird mouth like me. And they just bonded over the weird mouth.
That's so cool. That's a moment.
It really was, because I was like, I thought, oh my God, they're gonna, Sarah, you're gonna get fired from this show for chasing the guest away, because he was brought in by the comedy people, and I thought, oy, oy, oy. But it turned out to be a great, great thing, and he really, really adored her for that, and he sent her a lot of stuff in the mail, autographed stuff, and that was a sweet moment because it was my kid, and I didn't know where it was going to go, and there's been a lot of great moments, obviously, but that's the one that comes to the top of my mind is that one.
Well, we got a minute left in the meeting, man. BJ, I have to bring you back. I have so many more questions that we didn't get to. I love chopping it up with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me. Seriously, it means the world.
My pleasure, Danny. Thank you so much for having me, buddy. Always good talking to you.
You are a boss, my friend. Make sure you check out BJ and Migs every weekday morning from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on KISW 99.9. And you can also find them in the Odyssey app. All the information will be in the description. Thank you so much for listening, and you have a great weekend.